Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. 60 seconds before we start, Chewy needs to do a reboot of his computer. So he'll be along with us very, very shortly, which is a little bit of a pain, actually, because, oh no, I've got dandruff. I can see dandruff on the camera. Fucking 4K cameras show that up. Which is a bit of a pain, actually, because I'm watching the All Blacks right now at the same time. They're on in the background, and if Chewy was here, I could just let him run the whole show, and I could have a look. Minute 39 in, it's still 0-all. All Blacks 20 meters out on attack. So if I'm a bit distracted tonight, there might be a reason for that. How are you all? You're doing good? I hope you're doing well. I'm enjoying this already from carrying over from last night's show. Rose says, we're looking for slogans for the t-shirt. I started to work on that t-shirt today for Karen Plunket. I just heard you pop in, literally. Boop. Don't call us, we'll call you. Karen Plunket 2022. Like that one. That's not bad. And then Politica was a bit worried that careful Road Plunket might want to speak to your manager. Jaunty, the manager, better consent to that conversation. Rowers, again, his office is out the back by the dumpster, and it's on fire because it is a dumpster fire, remember. And then just people saying hello. And Simon, along with me, is watching the ABs in the background.
Yes, the old sports ball.
Oh, yes, the sporting ball. 5 meters out, All Blacks on attack. I could do the commentary all the way through the thing.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so actually tonight, I think that we've got... Look, I know we had a bit of fun last night with Karen, but... tonight there's some other stuff that have come up, and they kind of still relate to that whole culture wars thing. And so because they relate to the culture wars thing, if you've read the bio for what we've done at the start, we're basically saying we've got some more content for Karen to use on his show tomorrow. So we're going to talk a bit about that a bit later on. And we're also going to talk about a really good day. When I say a really good day, what I'm meaning is like the political narrative or on the politics. Oh, All Blacks have just scored, by the way, for Labour. Actually, and it's almost an embarrassingly good day for Actor National, because Actor National are trying to sell a narrative. And last night I said that typically the kind of alt-right conspiracy theory, far right people that come off as not very intelligent, I don't actually believe that of your average National supporter or your average ACT supporter. I don't. And I think the narrative that National and ACT are trying to sell today, even their supporters will be like, come on, guys. You put it out there. You can't really pull it back now. You know, let's at least be honest. That's all I'm asking. Let's at least be honest about this. Evening Free Soul, evening Sai, evening everybody else. What about you, Chewy? Thanks for joining us. Thanks for bothering to jump on board and join us tonight.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool. You know, I just had to I don't know. I don't even have enough going on tonight to put up as an excuse.
Yeah.
So
how's your day? What's going on?
Actually really interesting. Like today has been the first day that I was back at work since they scrapped the masks.
And your work is very, very face to face. You're like dealing with people like within your 1 meter circle, very face to face, and for a long period of time. Like I when I go to the place that you work, you're often there for 20 minutes. You're often there for 20 minutes, sitting across the desk from someone. So it's very personal and it's very close. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I'll just be with someone or a couple of people on the other side of the desk for, you know, between 15 and 45 minutes. And, you know, you'll often have quite a few people also waiting for their turn in this very small shop. And I mean, for the most part, all the way through this, people were generally pretty good with masks. You know, you'd have people, you know, we always took the attitude of like, well, we'll just ask if someone needs a mask if they're not wearing one. It's a nice, gentle sort of prod. And we supplied masks if people didn't have them. It was pretty good. Yeah. my first shift back since the mask mandate, and we must have had 70, 80 people through the shop. And I only had one customer who put on a mask because they saw that I was wearing one.
Wow.
So it's pretty telling. I went to the supermarket afterwards, and it was about 50-50.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because I said on the Tuesday, I think it was the Tuesday, that I was quite impressed being out on that first day and seeing, and I suggested maybe 30% of people in shops with masks on. So I wonder whether you have an anomaly today or whether we're moving that way. Like 2 days after the first day, are people dropping away already? I experienced that a little bit today. I was going to I stopped into a petrol station just to grab a drink actually, and because I was ducking in and ducking out, I thought I don't need a mask. I'll be lazy. But then I went, nah. I put it on anyway. Ducked in, ducked out. But I could feel how much easier that would be to do now than what I would have thought of a week ago. So if I'm feeling that how much easier that feels, people who are kind of like already kind of blasé about the mask, it's even easier for them to, because the Prime Minister told us it's safe now.
Yeah. And I'm a little bit torn. I've always been strong in the fact that wearing a mask is a very easy thing to do. But by the same token, I've had to keep my beard shorter than I usually would. I'm looking forward to growing it out again. But
come join me. Come join.
It's just such a little thing. I'm not comfortable yet, and I'm not comfortable with my customer base. Being a potential vector if there's another outbreak.
Yeah,
that's cool. Like I won't go. Like I had someone go, "Oh, do I need to wear a mask?" And I was like, "It's up to you now. I'd be grateful if you did,
right?
But it is up to you."
Yeah. No, look, I think I saw obviously what's going around today is kind of the anti-meme sort of thing, talking about what do you say to, how do you defend wearing a mask, sort of in a joking way. And one of the people were like, what I say is I'm not going to be forced to do something that the government tells me to do. Basically the same argument, but the other way. And I got to say, it's probably a good time to talk about tomorrow night. Those of you who were with us last Friday night know the story, what's going on. The Chantel Baker conversation that I had last Friday that we did not play last Friday night. We have made a decision what we're going to do, and you will need to join us tomorrow night to find it out. The one thing I will say to you, and I said this on Monday night, is that no one person or one group of people is going to either get me to not play it or to play it. Right. We've spent this week consulting with people. And as I said on Monday night, and I'll explain this all in much more detail tomorrow night, but as I said on Monday night, Friday night shook me. I think it's fair to say it shook us, but didn't it, Chewy? Only because it was like our own team going, fuck you guys, you fucking assholes. And look, no matter what kind of, I know I have working in radio, I've had a lot of, various nasty things said about me, but when it's your own team, when it's your teammates, when it's the people who you've been working with, supporting, advocating for, and that basically in an instant go, fuck you guys. It was shaking. The good thing about it is it's really given me a new direction and a steely determination in what we're doing. And I have to tell you something, Chewy. I'm going to play a little clip shortly as well, just to celebrate what I did today, which was have a chat about a man halfway down Dominion Road. I honestly, this is going to probably sound a little bit OTT and weird. I was sitting in the middle of my podcast with Don McGlashan today, and I felt different. I felt more anchored. Anchor me. I felt more anchored. And it's almost like the events of last week have finally gotten me to be, this is me, this is who I am, this is where I sit. Like, honestly, I was in the middle of the interview and I was just like, this feels really different to me. And it's the first long form podcast I've done since it all happened last Friday night. Now, some of you might think that sounds a bit airy-fairy and a bit kind of waffling or whatever, but I'm just telling you, it felt different. The show to me now feels different, and the direction moving forward will be different. So even if some of you think we do the wrong thing tomorrow night, or we do the right thing tomorrow night, or it was the wrong thing last week, or it was the right thing last week, we're all going to disagree on some things and we're all going to agree on some things. And even if that was the case, what it has done is, I think, actually really showing us where to from here. Would that be fair, Chewy?
Yeah. No, I mean, We put in some work. I mean, especially yourself, but you know, we talk to a lot of people in the sphere that could be affected by this, or have I guess a stake in who we talk to, and who have been contributors to the show, and people whose opinion we valued, and it just sort of widened the spread of who we were asking. And it's been invaluable, and it's given us some really good ideas about how we approach interviews and that sort of format, and say with that sort of subject, character, whatever you want to say, and just a really good way to keep doing that and managing how we do it, and what people want to see. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff.
And Kim, you're a little bit right. I mean, sometimes it's a bit hard for me to get away from my radio roots. She was nice there. No, from the history of what I've learned in radio, I do struggle sometimes not to use alliteration when I'm trying to design something. Like it's the Friday night phone in. It's still things that go through my head, and still that kind of, hey, after the break. But I think actually, if you've watched any of the shows this week, I think I've already explained basically what's going to happen. And if you haven't, then yes, you'll have to wait in suspense till tomorrow night. But what I've talked out this week is pretty much the path we're going to take. So, hey, do you want to know about Mr. McGlashan? It was fun, man.
I have just realised, because you mentioned Anchor Me. I didn't put those two things together. That Don McGlashan was part of the Mutton Birds.
Yeah,
I love the Mutton Birds. Anchor Me was a song that I played at my wedding. That was for our wedding dance. So yeah, no, that's an absolute score.
Is that like a metaphor of a ball and chain, playing Anchor Me at your wedding?
Oh, I guess a little bit, but in a good way. And I don't think I really want to look at the lyrics because it might be sad. Who knows? But that is a cracker song. He's been involved in so many good classic Kiwi songs. The Mutton Birds are iconic.
Yeah. Well, look, let's do this. Now, this has got nothing to do with news. This is actually me, like, again, Kim, back to my radio days. This is called cross-promotion, because this full thing is out tomorrow. But I think this is kind of a cool little clip. I just took 2 minutes out, and everyone knows Halfway Down Dominion Road, the Dominion Road song. This is a little conversation I had with Don McGlashan, as you can see at the top here. He used to avoid going down Dominion Road. He didn't want to be seen going down Dominion Road. Let's have a listen to this little 2-minute clip. It's just a little vignette for you, and then we'll get on with the rest of the show. Enjoy.
You know, particularly with Dominion Road, I don't. I did go through a stage of kind of feeling weird about being seen on Dominion Road. Like if I, particularly when somebody, this was there was absolutely no reason for it, but there was somebody did some guerrilla public art halfway down Dominion Road, or well, it wasn't exactly halfway down Dominion Road, which we found out later, because a sort of art dispute arose between the anonymous artist sculptor who did this a little plaque in the footpath on Dominion Road, and the late Billy Apple, who's a guy I knew, was lucky enough to have met him, and he thought it was really funny, so he started a kind of war online with this anonymous artist, sort of saying, "You got it wrong. It's not exactly halfway down," because and Billy had calculated it with GPS, and there's also the issue of do you include Dominion Road extension and all that sort of stuff. So it became a kind of a kind of an art. What do you call it? Like a conversation, but something a bit more heated than a conversation, which Billy loved to initiate and sustain. But during all of that, there were times when I would have loved to go and just sort of stand and look at the plaque and think, "Oh, that's so cool!" You know, somebody's put in bronze, "You are now standing halfway down Dominion Road on Dominion Road," and then it nearly got pulled up by the council.
Right,
and then somebody told me that they. In order so that it wouldn't be dug up, they brought in like a special rule or something, deeming it to be public art, So they sort of stopped the demolition order just before it happened, and all of that sort of stuff. So there was a period where I would have loved to go and stand and just look at it, but I was kind of a bit shy of somebody driving past and taking a photograph of me looking at the plaque.
There you go. Just a little, just sharing a little something with you. That's out tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. If you're watching us on YouTube, it's actually on this channel. This is like a studio channel that we use for a bunch of things, and that will be there that tomorrow morning.
He's just reminded me of the best plaque I've ever seen in a footpath setting. I was in Newcastle a few years back, and they had these little round bronze discs about that big for historic places or birthplaces of famous people from Newcastle. So you go around and you find all of these, and I found one, and it was just like, on this spot on the 8th of August 1964 nothing happened. And I was like, yes, that's brilliant.
Something else that was brilliant was our conversation last night, and I had a great amount of joy staying in the studio for an extra half hour or so last night and doing things.
I thought you got that up quickly.
Doing things like this. Old Karen, eh?
It's good. It feels good to take the high ground.
It does. And this is like when I said last night, if you're a graphic artist and you want to help us, let us know, because this is about the subtotal of my skill. Find a PNG of a Karen haircut and just plonk it on top and twist it slightly to make it look like it could be 1% real. But yeah, so we thought tonight we might actually help an aging broadcaster out, as we've said before, with a story he might want to run tomorrow. And the story he might want to run tomorrow involves the latest, it's actually Disney's new version of, is it the Little or the Littlest Mermaid? The Little Mermaid?
I think it's
the Little Mermaid. Here's a little bit of footage from the like the promo to it. Yeah, is it called the promo? The trailer to it. And there's a bit of a surprise at the end of the trailer. Most of you will know this, but for people who don't know, here's a little bit of it playing for you here. Can I make that bigger? I don't think so. Looks pretty amazing, actually. Ooh,
what was that? What was that?
Suspenseful. That's the Little Mermaid. You waiting for it? Looks a little different.
Oh, they know exactly what they're doing with this trailer.
Wait for it. The Little Mermaid.
Wish I could.
There she is.
But hang on, Pat. This fictional half fish, half woman has always been white.
With red hair. Now obviously our tongues are in our cheek, and before we even start the conversation about this, not only do I want to give this to Karen so he can have his culture wars tomorrow, but I also want to give him the response for why this is pretty fucking amazing. When I saw this TikTok, it actually choked me up a little bit. So if you haven't seen this, or you haven't seen this video before, why do we think representation might be important in film? Why do we like representation? Why, especially when it doesn't matter because it's make-believe, is it okay to have representation in film? This guy is, I think, a comedian, and don't get put off by the first thing he says. He's taking the piss. But have a look at this.
I'm so sick of woke culture. Now they done turned Little Mermaid black. What the hell you gain out of making Little Mermaid black?
I think she's brown. Is it real? Wish I could. She's a black girl. She's black. She's black. Yes, she is. She's black. Mama, she's black. What?
If you watch that video and you still don't get it, then you're a white supremacist piece of shit. You ain't shit and ain't never gonna be shit. Said what the fuck I said.
Nice.
Is that officially? Is that what you say? That's a mic drop? Is that what that moment is?
Absolutely. throw that shit across the room. No, look, it's super important. We've never had to worry about it because as white dudes, we've always been represented in everything. Like that's why people don't get it, because they've never had the absence of it.
Yeah,
You know, it's just so crazy. And yeah, people, like, I bet the same people that are getting frothy about this online are the same people that when they cast like a white actor in another ethnicity's role, and they go, oh, the job should go to the best actor.
best actor. Yeah.
You know, and how do we know that this isn't the best actor for this role? She sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, she's nominated for 5 Grammys for singing.
Oh, okay.
That actress. So
there you go.
She's the shit
in a musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I hope that not too much further in the future, we just won't care. Like it won't matter. Like it doesn't factor in. Like the Little Mermaid was a book, you know, and it's a make-believe book. It can be anybody. But to those kids, it means a hell of a lot more than it would if it was just another white actress.
Oh, and the same sort of conversation, but maybe when Moana came out, you know, kind of the first brown Disney princess, basically. I was never impacted by hearing people's stories as much as that. The way that maybe it's because TikTok wasn't around, it wasn't quite so prevalent on social media, but that is I don't want to say it's tear jerking for everybody, but it's phenomenal to actually understand that for, you know, in this instance, it's for certainly Black girls in America, but whatever demographic you're in, to see yourself up on a big screen is more than just important or more than just nice. It's actually essential. It's actually essential to integrate you into society and to be a part of the overall story of society. So I'm like, I just like think that guy's TikTok was, I think his name's Jolly or Juby or something, was phenomenal. And yeah, I do get a little bit frustrated when there's a make-believe story that at some stage they chose to make believe a certain character. And now people try and say that means you have to continue make-believing the same
absolutely
make-believe that was in, which was made-believe based on something else that was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's always adults that are bringing it up. Like kids don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't until their parents start messing with their minds.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, good on them.
Just jumped in for the background. I've got a I've come up with a I've got this new thing. It's you know, in radio you have cart walls, and they're for playing sound effects.
Take me back. Yes.
Well, I found one, and I'm starting to load it up with various clips, and I'll have to find a Karen one for our friend Karen there. Look, I'll show you. I'll bring it up. This is a pretty unprofessional thing to do, but see, little cart wall like there. And,
awesome. Are we going to end up like bloody breakfast radio with
this was one that I was going to use last Friday night, but I never got around to it. Should we play this?
Your feelings don't really matter right now because we're talking about facts.
Your feelings don't really matter right now because we're talking about facts.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, thanks for that, Chantel.
Yeah, but I didn't use that in the end. Okay, so let's just go on to this last one. We've got kind of 2 or 3 of these smaller bits and bobs. I'm going to close down Karen because the face terrifies me. There's another very small story. It's more just a another little thing to share with you, because you know Donald Trump. You know him personally. You know Donald Trump.
I'm familiar with his works.
Well, he's accused of all these crimes, right? He's accused of all this criminal activity, and he's accused of all this bad behavior. And I was thinking the other day, he's done so many things. It's sometimes a bit hard to kind of keep up with all the things that he's either accused of doing, have done, or accused of doing, has done, or has done, which aren't crime, but are still dirtbag things to do. And I thought, if only some kind of, I don't know, I'm assuming kind of like far left radical, you know, activist could, for me, get all these lists of things together just to keep on top of what Donald Trump has actually either done or is accused of doing.
That'd be really helpful.
Well, because, you know, you think about, there's all these right-wing politicians in America at the moment kind of getting in behind Trump's message. I think that possibly they do want to know what they're getting behind. So I found this left-wing journalist. I've never heard of him before. Hannity, I think his name is Hannity, young fella, young up-and-comer, who graciously went and did the work for us and chose as part of a show. I don't know if he's filling in here. I'm not sure whose show this is, but chose to let us all know exactly the things that Trump has either done or is accused of doing. It's just such a fantastic thing for the left that he's done.
Democrats have been wasting almost all of their time and billions of your tax dollars with one investigation after investigation into all things Donald Trump. And this has been going on now for years. First, it was the Russia hoax. Then it was Comey's Crossfire Hurricane, Mueller's witch hunt, the Emoluments Clause investigation from the House Oversight Committee, a House Ways and Means investigation into Trump's taxes, another House investigation into Trump's hotel lease, another House investigation into foreign gift disclosures.
Dude, there's 60 seconds to go. I'm not shitting you. There's 60 seconds still to go.
Investigation from the Southern District of New York and the Eastern District of New York and from New Jersey's Attorney General. One impeachment investigation into a regular phone call with Ukraine, a second impeachment investigation into January 6th, yet another House committee investigation into January 6th. That is still ongoing with more hearings to come. And then there's the Southern District of New York's investigation into pardons, a DOJ probe into Trump's Political Action Committee, another House investigation into the Trump administration's security clearance process, other investigations into Trump's property valuations, and of course, his social media, Truth Social, the Trump Foundation, as well as a variety of other tax investigations, and of course, the National Archives investigation that led to the Mar-a-Lago raid. You got all that? We'll ask you at the end of the show if you remember. The kind of new left-wing journalists out there trying to bring down Trump. It's amazing, isn't it? They're doing good work.
Just as an aside, Hannity looked like he was made of rubber there.
What was he thinking?
Yeah, I think he was trying to make the point that nothing has stuck, but it's just like there is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff for someone that probably shouldn't have been doing any stuff.
That was 80 seconds. 80 seconds
that's
of
crazy.
listing things.
God, I hope he goes to jail.
Well, he won't go to jail, but we'll see what happens.
Oh no, he won't because he's got money. But still, wouldn't it be good?
Yeah.
My heart grew by about 3 sizes when I saw Steve Bannon being taken off in cuffs the other day.
Okay, let's get on with some news and stuff, shall we? It's a very good day for Labour. We'll get onto that very shortly. But the first thing, and this kind of flows on a little bit from last night's conversation. This is the antithesis of last night's conversation. Last night's conversation, we talked about how Karen was so upset. Remember, he wanted to open a public debate, did Karen, about why a private business would choose to have Māori as an option at their checkouts. And he was going to force Countdown into a public debate because that's what was warranted, because it was the biggest news story of the day. One can only assume that Karen Plunket will be getting these guys on the phone tomorrow morning saying, oh, you know what? You are the example to business in New Zealand, because there was a supermarket, I think in New Plymouth, we'll find out in the story, who has done the opposite. And they say in their handbook, you're only allowed to speak English on the floor or in meetings. Let's have a listen to this.
That sounds a bit illegal.
We'll have a listen to this.
New World Broadway, located in the heart of Palmerston North, a bustling supermarket that on social media at least appears to endorse the use of other languages like Te Reo Māori. They love it, in fact. But Newsub understands on the shop floor it's a different story. An employee handbook shows staff were required to only talk in English.
Well, it's draconian, it's ridiculous, and it's tragic that this is the situation in Palmerston North in the supermarket in 2022.
The line first appeared in a new owner's handbook. It states that whilst New World Broadway welcomes our diverse cultures and allows all languages to be spoken, we do require all discussions on the shop floor to be in English. It says this is due to instances where staff and customers hear their names mentioned and know they were being talked about by staff in their native language. The guidelines also encourage all...
I'll tell you how stupid that is, right? Basically what they're saying, like I can put a different spin on this and make the same argument. You're no longer allowed to whisper. right? You're no longer allowed to whisper, because if you whisper, Chewy,
Hey,
and you
what?
hear your name in the whisper, that's not appropriate because people around you might think you're talking about them.
Oh,
It's
just
actually exactly the same
ass-covering.
argument that this new owner came up with the supermarket, and yeah, so only English. I did wonder about this because it says on the floor, right? If someone came in who couldn't speak English, and there was someone on the floor who could speak their native tongue, according to the handbook, what they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
It's dumb. It's indefensible. I don't know why you would even bother. It's just, yeah, it's very, very old school, shall we say.
we shall. Let's get to the end of the story.
Staff room discussions to be in English for the same reason, for staff's own protection.
Well, that's just rubbish. The fact is, they are using a tool due to their position of power to bully employees from using their own language to talk amongst their own colleagues. That's fundamentally wrong.
Barrister Michael Bott says it's discrimination and may even breach the Human Rights Act, something the Race Relations Commissioner agrees with.
It's a bit of a discriminatory policy. It's against the law, actually, to actually treat people less than.
The Human Rights Act protects people in New Zealand from unlawful discrimination. An employee first sent the handbook to First Union, which represents supermarket staff.
I was absolutely appalled. I was disgusted. I was shocked. I was outraged.
Dion Martin says he's never seen anything like it.
There's no need for just English to be spoken on the shop floor. I know Palmerston North is a multicultural, multi-ethnic society. We celebrate diversity.
The new owner, who also owns a New World in Tauranga, referred News Hub to Foodstuffs, the cooperative behind brands like New World and Pack and Save. In 2017, people were outraged when a picture emerged of a sign asking staff to speak only English in another foodstuff store in the Bay of Plenty. In response to the section in New World Broadway's handbook, Foodstuffs says the intent was to make everyone feel included. But after feedback from employees, the section no longer applies and will be removed from future handbooks. It also says all cooperative members have been informed a requirement to talk in only English is not appropriate. Leighton Hakel, News Hub.
That was a good little story, really.
I mean, it was a good arc because basically it was a controversial story, absolutely ridiculous results, and then it was cancelled. So actually, it got through the actual thing as well. But I
like the little link to the person owns a supermarket in Bay of Plenty as well. And here's another incident of a very similar thing happening in the Bay of Plenty.
I don't think they quite
draw your own
their one, though, was it?
Oh, I don't know, but there's enough of a sort of like draw your own conclusions here.
Yeah, perhaps. Oh, mind you, if it was his owner, you'd be saying owned by the same person. But it's just like I said. I mean, when you can replace like the content of an argument to come up with the same answer, and the replacement is ridiculous. Like I said, whispering, because the argument is if you're speaking in a non-English language, and you hear your name, you don't know if they're talking about you. Who cares if they're talking about you? People are allowed to talk about you. I mean, that's not against the rules or the law. But B, so therefore, what they're saying is, in their workplace, they don't want people to hear their name and not know what's being said about them, right? That's the rule. So that's why I said, so whispering would be exactly the same. Sign language, maybe sign language, if people knew what the sign for their name was, couldn't do it. It's utterly ridiculous. And of course, the other ridiculous thing about it is if that was a role and there was, let's say, 2 students working there who could speak, let's say, Greek, then they'd just refer to that person by another name if they wanted to slag them off. So it's not only pointless or potentially illegal, but it wouldn't work either. So, what's the point? Ridiculous.
I do have one little story about so I only speak English. I could say some basic
barely
and definitely not at a professional level. But I've learned just pleases and thank yous in some countries that I've been to. Pretty much the only word of Dutch that I can speak is thank you, dankjewel. And I had a customer once, 2 Dutch tourists and they were asking some questions. I was helping them out. They had a big, long conversation in Dutch, as I just stood by and waited for them to finish. And then as they sort of decided to carry on with their day, I just said Dankeschön, and one of them just went bright friggin' red. So I assumed that they were talking about me. Because they figured that I couldn't speak Dutch, but just dropping in that little thank you at the end just really rattled one of them.
Wow. I
Still
grew
don't
up
know.
with one of a very good mate of mine was from a Dutch family, so I know all the swear words. I used to I mean, I think, and I'm not, if you're Dutch or you speak them, and there's I think there's multiple kinds of Dutch, like there's Frisian and there's something I don't know, but his father, I remember his father watching TV once, and there was like a riot on the news, and he went "Godverdomme," which I think means Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And his mother used to say to him, "Op de kop staan en dubbeltje skieten." And it's a little bit like, you know, you have rote sayings, like when we used to say to my mum, "What's for dinner?" she'd say pickled eel's knees. You just have those rote sayings that you say, pickled eel's knees. And apparently I've been told by him, could be bullshitting me, that "Op de kop staan en dubbeltje skieten" means stand on your head and shit coins. So when the kid goes to his parent, "Oh, what can I do? I'm bored," they go up to kop staan dubbeltje skieten. Stand on your head and shit coins. It's a bit one of those things. Now, if you speak Dutch and I'm completely wrong, tell me. He maybe he told me the most offensive things in the world to repeat, and I've just been doing them. I'm not sure, but that's what
haven't you got an interview with famous Dutchman Lee Vandervis coming up?
I do, actually.
Just saying, just putting that out there.
I do. I wonder if he speaks Dutch. Well, I can ask him. All right, it seems to be going on. I see the chat's going for it, and there's and the rugby is going for it at the same time. It's all. I won't say it because there'll be people who do want to watch rugby who don't want to get it spoiled by me, so I won't do that at all. Politically, we're talking about the supermarket. Makes an interesting and good point. Hey, join your union, folks.
That is a very good point, and it's something that I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's funny when you only think about it when it's too late.
Yeah.
So maybe this time I'll just get in ahead of it.
Does your place of work have a union for the actual work, or do you have to join an external one because they're like a certain kind of workers union?
Yeah, it'd be the retail workers union. So I think that's first union.
Yeah. All right.
I did have an email from them.
Stephen shows amazement at that story about the supermarket as well. Their intent was to be more inclusive. Yeah, I said exclusive there accidentally because that seems to be. And Free Soul wants to speak Klingon. Yeah, there are people who can do that. It's funny what you waste your time doing when you're a child, eh? I remember I went to boarding school, Sacred Heart College. I was a boarder for the last 3 years of school, 5th, 6th, and 7th form. So that's year 13, 12, 11 in today's currency. And I remember having a stereo with double tape deck in it, and having License to Ill by the Beastie Boys, and play stop, and writing all the words of the song down to learn the words.
Beastie Boys would be a challenging one to do.
I can still remember Paul Revere word for word almost, I think. I hear it occasionally, or I put it on occasionally. Little story named Paul Revere. Sorry about my phone and a court of beer. Riding across the lands, kicking up sand. Sheriff's touches on my tail because I'm in demand. One lonely beastie I be. Sticks, all by myself without nobody. The sun is something down on my baseball hat. The air is getting hot. The beer is getting flat. Looking for a girl. I ran into a guy. His name was MCA. I said howdy. He said hi.
I'm impressed.
Something like that.
That was dope.
All right. Let us talk about Labour's Good Day. There's a song. Is it Ice Cube? It's a good day. Ice Cube
didn't even have to use my AK.
Yeah, so it's been a good day. It's been a good day for Labour. And like I said, I think that sometimes grifters and charlatans pitch their wares to the dumbest audience. I don't believe that your average national supporter or even your average ACT supporter is a moron. And I think, unfortunately, for ACT supporters and national supporters, is that your leaders are treating you like morons today because they're trying to sell you a narrative which is obviously horse shit, right? Obviously horse shit. GDP is up today 1.7% as the border reopening helps the economy bounce back. GDP has risen by 1.7% in the June quarter with the reopening of the border. Now, that means we have not hit a recession. A recession, I believe, is 2 quarters of negative growth. We are up by 1.7%. I think in the last quarter, we were down by 0.2%. So we could have gone into recession officially today. We have not. This is a huge win for Labour. This is a huge win because you've heard it, whether it's Karen Plunket or Piers Morgan or Christopher Luxon or David Seymour or any of these people talking about how badly this government's doing with everything. Basically, it's the opposite. Whatever the opposite of the Midas touch is, they're all accusing Labour of having that. That's what that'd be the coal touch. The coal touch. Yet S&P told us earlier this week that we've done better than most countries with those 3 categories, one of them being results with health. And today we don't go into recession. So even though it's a small increase, it's a huge win. You know, it's like if you go to the doctor and you've got a concern about, like, let's say your blood pressure, and it could be really serious. And if you are in the range of normal, but you're only just in the range and the doctor doesn't consider it to be serious, it's a huge win for a close call. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of a bit like this, actually, because the country has pretty much been on, not quite life support, but the health of the country financially has been in question for a long time. And what has come back is that we are doing well, we're just doing well, but we're doing well. GDP has risen by 1.7% in the June quarter with the opening of the border a factor. What did I say? Is a factor in the lift. It comes as the last quarter's fall of 0.2% and eases fears of a recession. The service industries, which make up about 2/3 of the economy, were the main contributor with an increase of up 2.7%. Let's have a look at some of the commentary from TVNZ News tonight.
The economy has grown slightly in the past few months, boosted by overseas and domestic tourists treating themselves to travel, food and accommodation. But flip the coin, and there's been a 3.2% drop in household spending as people cut back on everyday and big ticket items.
Trying to cut down on electricity, food, lots and lots of different treats.
Can I afford to buy a block of cheese? Food-wise, travelling.
Some industries, tourism, exports, retail, are doing well, but others, such as construction and manufacturing, are seeing big falls in economic activity.
Look isn't good for New Zealanders at the moment. We've got rapidly rising prices, we've got inflation becoming embedded in the economy, and we've got declining real wages. And that means...
See, when the opposition tells us things we know, yet we also know that compared to a lot of parts in the world, we're doing better, I would say that they've lost the game when it comes to the narrative of the economy. You know what I'm saying? No one's saying that inflation is fantastic. No one's saying that the block of cheese price is fantastic. None of those things. But when the opposition and various other places have been talking about going into a recession, have been talking about how Labour's handled the economy so badly, and they have a good result, and a good result based on what's happening around the world, which we'll get to towards the end of this. But to me, it loses credibility as well as to the argument that these people are now making. It loses me in the ability for them to actually tell us what's going on, and it comes across just as party politics now. Because now what's happening is National and ACT are just going, nuh-uh, and that's actually not a cogent argument.
Means that everyone's going backwards.
It's been challenging and there are still challenges to overcome. I think there's every reason to be optimistic about the New Zealand economy.
But with so many global and domestic pressures piling on, not everyone is feeling that optimism.
And Katie's with us now live from our Auckland newsroom. What are the economic risks we need to be wary of?
We'll leave it for there. She talks about inflationary pressure and that kind of stuff. So, like, again, no one's saying it's perfect. So, I'll go through some of the comments shortly, but Chewy, do you want to jump in before we get there? Because I've got some direct quotes from National and ACT as well.
Yeah, so I think we've always been going, the economy's going pretty good, employment's going pretty good, business has had more uptime than if we had more sickness, if we had longer lockdowns, all of that sort of stuff. And for such a tourism-based economy, the moment that we opened our borders and people could come back here, that was always going to be a big uptick, I think. You know, as much as I hate the plague ships, the cruise ships are on the way. People are able to fly here for holidays. This is all good stuff. But yeah, it's always going to fly in the face of what the opposition want to talk about. And I don't know if you want to look at that poll that came out today now or later.
We can have a look. Well, what's the poll on?
Well, it's Taxpayers Union's Curia poll, and it shows a reasonable bounce for National. So what they're doing is potentially working, which is just lying. But it's sort of, I guess, reflecting a bit of dissatisfaction, perhaps.
Which is yeah. I mean that it'll be interesting if there was a poll done over the next week. That poll was probably done. It's probably got the dates on it somewhere, but it would have been last week.
Polling period was Thursday to the Thursday
so finished
the
the week.
Friday the 9th.
Best part of a week ago. Interesting. I wonder if there's any kind of like plan in that. Let's get this out there before the GDP numbers come out in case they're good. So, but you know, it is what it is, and I think that no matter what happens, it's going to come down to the wire at the next election. Apparently, I've heard that Destiny Church are going to hold the balance of power. The Lord tells them that.
What I read is that they're going to try and field 72 candidates. They're going to try and contest every seat.
Let's go and have a look at exactly what was said, and then I'm going to actually we've talked about this. We're going to talk about this for 10 or 15 minutes once we finish, and then it's a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to show you a Facebook message from Russell Brown, journalist Russell Brown, basically summarizes the whole thing in 2 sentences. But let's have a look. So the GDP reaction, we'll go through this again. The ACT Party says quarterly growth in GDP recorded on Thursday is down to, quote, heroic efforts, end quote, of Kiwi business people in the face of Labour's, quote, best efforts to, I guess it's supposed to be strangle, it says strange, the economy. Nationals also not giving government any credit for the lift, instead focusing on low annual growth. But the Finance Minister is selling the data as highlighting how the government's economic plan is working in what continues to be an extremely challenging global environment. We are continuing to focus on lifting New Zealanders up and giving them greater economic security. We are investing in supporting businesses to grow jobs and wages, which will make families and our economies stronger. Stats NZ on this morning, revealed there was a 1.7% lift in GDP during the second quarter of 2022. That means a technical recession, 2 consecutive months of negative growth, was avoided after the 0.2% contraction during the first quarter of the year. Most economists had been, now these are some of the smarty pants, right? We'd like to hear what the experts are saying, not the thumbs in a suit, as someone was saying earlier. Most economists have been predicting a slight lift in GDP. So economists were saying this was going to happen. At the time period covers the reopening of New Zealand's borders, as well as scaling back of COVID-19 restrictions following the first Omicron wave. The 1.7% figure came in close to the Reserve Bank's expected 1.8% increase, but neither ACT nor National were praising the government for the response. Nicola Willis, National's finance spokesperson, focused her remarks on annual growth, which was 1% over the year to June 2022. Last quarter, when annual growth in the year was to March 2022, was 4.9%. Willis's statement was about the 0.2% quarterly contraction. Annual growth is much lower than Australia and many other countries New Zealand typically measures itself against. So what they're doing, it's like radio ratings, Radio ratings, what people do is radio stations go, we're number one, we're number one, we're number one 2554, we're number one 1834, and they find information to make their point. Going back to the slow growth. I mean, did anyone think it wasn't going to be slow growth after COVID, after Omicron, after lockdowns? No. So this one I haven't highlighted, but I will mention it because David Seymour wants to get into the action. Today's growth in GDP is a testament to the hard work of Kiwi business people who through sheer will and determination, nothing to do with all that COVID relief they've got, Nothing to do with all that help the government gave them to get them through that period.
Literal money taps being turned on. Yeah.
But it was only their sheer will and determination have managed a positive result in spite of Labor's policies that have restricted production and starved them of workers. Now, when I say that I don't believe your average ACT voter and your average national voter is going to fall for this horse shit, because we all know that if there had been another quarter of negative growth, who would they have blamed? They would have blamed the Labor government.
100%.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Luxon, and I'm sorry, Mr. Seymour, but you don't get to give the credit to the business people alone when you would absolutely give the negative aspect if it was the other way to Labor. What that means, therefore, Mr. Seymour, is if the next quarter there is a contraction, you must come out and say it's because all those hardworking Kiwi businesswomen, they all slacked off. That's the reason it's contracting. No, he'll say it's because of Labor. We all know that, and I don't think the average national voter or the average ACT voter is going to fall for it. I really don't. I really think that they might use the talking points to win some battles with their friends on Facebook, but they all know. They all know that if the Labor government had have fucked up, that they'd be getting the blame for it. So they all know it's incongruent, it's hypocritical to now not give them any credit. You might say it's a mixture of hardworking businessmen and Labor policy. Fine. Hardworking businessmen, but men and women, Labor policy, and some good luck. Fine. But to just basically say it's got nothing to do with Labor, come on. Come on.
This is kind of like one of my personal bugbears, right? Nobody's expecting the opposition to come out and sort of go, yeah, like, full credit, Labor. Good job. No one's really expecting them to do that. But I just wish instead of going, the government had nothing to do with this, which is, as you said, is unbelievable. Like, you can't have a brain in your head and go, the government had no impact on these results.
Of course.
Why can't they go, Labor did an okay job. We will do better. And this is how. You know, tell me why I should vote for you rather than telling me why I shouldn't vote for them.
Yeah, well, that's the shell game, and they're still doing it. National's still doing it. And like, I mean, in their defense, that's all the opposition party needs to do. But if you're playing the shell game and saying why you shouldn't vote for them, when you've got a result that's fantastic compared to the rest of the world, it's kind of the wrong time to say you shouldn't vote for them. When you've got GDP growth and the missing of a recession, that's the wrong time to say these guys can't handle the economy, don't vote for them. That's the time to start going, this is why you vote for us. And they've kept that narrative going of don't vote for these people who have been very successful in the economy in that quarter, don't vote for them. You know, so that's why I'm saying the disingenuous nature of it.
They could even go, wow, only X amount of growth, pathetic. We could do heaps better than that. You know, that would be the same message, but just in a better way. Don't ask me how I'm going to do that, but still, we do better.
Yeah.
Honest, vote for us.
So you know, like it's like this a bit, Chewy. You know, you've just won some award at a business for being the best salesman of the month, and your enemy in the store is trying to tell everybody how bad you are, and you've just won this award for being the best salesman in the store.
Yeah.
You know, no, that's the time that your enemy goes, you know what, congratulations, Drew, but I could do better, and they're not. So it's a bit. I mean, the All Blacks are literally playing right now, but it's a little bit like when I watch foosball, which I know you love, Chewy, and you're watching
baskets are we ahead by
17.3, and when you watch a team not understand how to change tack when the what they're trying to do, so they come to a game with a plan, and you probably experience this on stage, Chewy. You go on stage with a plan, and if it's not working, the kind of the worst thing you can see is when something's not working, like the team not working their plan, not have the skill set to change that plan in the middle of the game and try something new. That's actually what Luxon's done. He hasn't changed his plan.
I can't use sports analogies because I don't understand what's going on. But what I can do is relate everything back to a Simpsons quote eventually. So Lenny is stuck down the bottom of a well, and he can't get out because he just keeps digging. And then someone comes down and says, "You're doing it all wrong, dummy. Dig up." One of my favorite Simpsons jokes there. Deep cut.
Very good. Hey, let's just finish off the story because, like we say, we do want to go to what the experts have got to say as well. So ASB senior economist Mark Smith said recent GDP figures, quote, have proved to be mostly noise rather than an economic signal. There is more substance behind Thursday's data. So what's just come out now. Further volatility lies ahead as the New Zealand economy continues to transition back towards pre-COVID-19 norms, and how this occurs and added uncertainty, he said. The New Zealand economy is likely to repeat its it's unlikely to repeat its Q2 heroics, which is the plus 1.7, but the underlying base momentum should remain. Testament to the underlying resilience of the New Zealand economy and the support factors in the economy. And then there's another one, but that, yeah,
Support factors,
they
that
basically
sounds like the government.
Yeah, no, hardworking businessman, nothing else. Now, I said basically what I would do is actually kind of smash all of our thing there and just get Russell Brown, journalist Russell Brown, to do it for us in 2 lines. We'll do that now. So this is a message on Facebook, not a message, but like a post on Facebook where Russell Brown says this. Let's keep it simple. New Zealand's GDP grew 1.7% in Q2 2022. The OECD average for the quarter was 0.3. The G7 average was 0.1. We're doing pretty well.
Boom.
What that means, obviously, by Mr. Seymour would say, is the OECD is full of loser businessmen who aren't giving it their all, and the G7 even more so. So all those loser business people who don't know what they're doing, because that's what it's completely about here in New Zealand. So listen, if you're a national voter or an ACT voter, bless you. Maybe one day you'll come to the light, but don't fall for the bullshit. Like, be an honest actor. This is a good day for New Zealand, and it's a good day for the Finance Minister, and it's a good day for Labour. They get to celebrate. And actually, Luxon and Seymour and others should step away from it and figure out a better plan for how to earn your vote, not just say you should vote for us because they suck, because that's the worst kind of voting people out is the worst kind of thing.
Do you know what always kind of annoys me with this sort of conversation as well? Like Seymour's kind of touched on it here, is business always adapts, right? Business is always able to look after itself.
It adapts or it disappears.
Yeah, in one way or another, free market, that sort of thing. When you go, the government's had nothing to do with this, or vice versa, the government's not done enough because our little baby business can't look after itself and it needs the government to help it out. Like either way is just taking the piss. There's things that you can do to help business, but I mean, they'll always find a way. Weak businesses fall by the wayside. Strong businesses increase their demand and their business. They'll just do that, and they're obviously able to do that at this rate where they're paying, higher wages, and they're dealing with all the shipping and all the other constraints we've had during the pandemic. They've been getting shit done. Why can't you just say that?
I remember John Key talking about like having, what do you call partners in government? Who could you work with? And he basically said, he literally said, I'm not quite, the only reason I'm saying basically is because I can't remember the exact quote, but he said he could work with anyone except Labour. Now, I know in politics that's kind of how it works, but part of me went in that moment, I wish we could have politicians that would actually just go, I will work with whoever that's best for the country. Even if it meant sometimes Labour had to support National or National had to support Labour. That only ever really seems to happen in like times of war or like times of the Christchurch earthquake or something like that. Even times of COVID to start with. And Simon Bridges found out very quickly why he tried not to do that, and that cost him his career. But I've always been disappointed when people basically rule out the group, the opposition, as I can't work with them. It's like, I get it that you're their opposition, but surely you can't work with them on most things. I'm sure there's some things you could work with them on. Because actually, as a voter, you guys are working for me. You know what I'm saying? And I actually want you to be the best government you can be. And I want you to be the best opposition you can be. And if you just go, fuck those assholes, then you're not actually being the best opposition for me or the best government. What you're being is adversarial and petty on some levels. And that doesn't help me or any voter in this country.
Yeah. A strong and principled opposition improves everything. Because, you know, and they're quite happy to say this. We're holding the government to account. Excellent. Yes, that's what I want, even if you're not my team. But when you're, you know, because you know, as something isn't, if someone isn't looking at this stuff, then shady shit tends to happen. Bad decisions tend to happen. That's what's supposed to work.
Yeah.
But I just don't see and haven't seen for a long while now, I guess, the honesty in the opposition. Like, there's always going to be like a little bit of jiggery pokery with numbers and that sort of thing. But people forget that you're looking at the middle, not the fringes.
Yeah.
And it just seems that opposition is looking at the fringes, the people that you know, why are you trying to attract the worst part of your voting range, rather than looking at your base or trying to nibble away at the right wing of the people that decided to vote for Labour last time round. You know, why aren't you trying to get those people back rather than going for the fucking demons over here on Telegram?
Some messages that have been coming in through the night emphasize with that feeling of suddenly feeling like allies flip to adversaries. Well, I guess it's not really a feeling. I mean, being told that you are dead to a group of people who you were allies with literally days earlier, it's not really a feeling. It's kind of a reality on some level. David said, similar to what we were talking about, 1.7, Australia was 0.9, Canada 0.8, Japan 0.9, Euro 0.7, OECD average 0.4. So, you know, whatever. Joya is joining us again. Oh, Lordy, you guys are a breath of fresh air. Thanks for a balanced perspective. My name is pronounced Joya. I'm assuming it's pronounced Joya, not Joya Lol. Joya Lol. Just Joya. I'm going with just Joya. Politikiwi says, yuck, when Labour's the light, the bar is the floor. Wasn't suggesting that when I said come to the light, I'm not saying come to Labour. I've never said I'm Labour. I'm just saying come over to the enlightened side, please. That would be the place to be. Simon says National Labour cooperate on certain issues. The smacking legislation was one thing they did years ago, but there are other issues they do occasionally vote in sync with one another. Yeah, but I think you'll find most of those, and smacking was one, were conscious votes. So technically they weren't actually cooperating, because a conscious vote, any MP can vote how they want. And so even if the majority of national MPs voted for the anti-smacking law, that's not really National and Labour collaborating or cooperating.
I do like when people bring up the concept of a grand coalition as well, where the two main parties decide to somehow form a fucking diseased-looking Voltron to shut out the smaller parties. Can you imagine? Like, I assume Luxon would send Simeon Brown across the house with a note to just send in his short pants going, Luxon wants to join forces. What do you want me to tell him? But yeah, it never happened. But God, what if it did?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what do they used to call them in war times? Like a supermajority, or there was a name that they had for them. All right, and Adam, and you've highlighted this one, so let's mention it before the night ends. I just want to say once more, all your extra video content should unlock at $5/lowest Patreon tier. A lot of us lefties could do $5 a month. 15 in all honesty is hard. Cheers. Well, this just brings us back to tomorrow night. Just before we do that, let me just do one more thing. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to.
Counterpoint on the Patreon thing. Maybe we could go a little bit higher so I could get my electric car sooner.
Oh, nice.
Just putting that out there. It's all about me.
So tomorrow night we are revisiting the conversation that we were going to have last week. The conversation with Chantel Baker. We've made a decision as to what we're going to do. I've talked about it this week. We have consulted with people this week. as we said at the start of the show, last Friday was a bit of a shock. I didn't spend a lot of time on Twitter, although my phone was still buzzing on Tuesday. Unlike Chewy, my phone was still buzzing on Tuesday. And I think that we've come up with a new formula for how we're going to do long form conversations.
It's 50-50 bourbon Coke.
Ooh.
I'm from Timaru.
So we will delve more deeply into it tomorrow night. And can I also say, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then it doesn't matter. Grand Coalition, Simon says, yep, that's what it's called. I'm really keen to investigate the idea of some people are going to hate this, like some people within the left community are going to hate this, and they're going to think we're kind of playing victim cards and that kind of stuff. We're not. What I really want to do, I've been involved in this sort of work since 1997-ish, right? So it's 25 years I've been involved in broadcasting. Like I said last night, in that horrible, cringy, wanky moment when I pointed up to those things on those things up there, saying I think my experience gives me at least the ability to offer some insights. Yeah. And I think from being in broadcasting for that long, being involved in news and current affairs since about 2005, so probably 17 years. No, earlier than that. Anyway, 20 years. I'm really interested as to the reaction. One of the reasons I wasn't on Twitter a lot last week after all this stuff went down was I sat back and I observed. I talked to Chewy about this. I sat back and I observed. It was a really interesting observation. And I'll give you one of my observations, okay? And then we'll talk about the rest of it tomorrow night. Here's one of my observations. We criticize people like, let's say, whale oil, or in the conversation we had with Paula Penfold, there was criticism of the people that she was talking about. And one of the criticisms was they have no accountability. Like, as a journalist, the journalist goes, research, work, write a story, sub-editor or editor, but there's layers, and then it goes to legal, and they do their own mahi, and then they put it through other layers to make sure it's as good as possible. Does that mean it's perfect? No, of course not. Does that mean that the wrong things don't get through? No, of course not. But one of the criticisms, for example, within the Fire and Fury context, is all those other people who are running media worlds. They have no levels of that. So basically, they go bleh, and then that's what goes out there. With respect, so do we. Right. So we're in that camp. And that was one of my realizations actually over the weekend, that watching all this hubbub going on around Twitter and stuff, is the people that were doing it and causing it, who I have no problems with personally, but actually the same criticism could be labeled at them. They have no levels of accountability, and they just do that same thing that we accuse the other guys of doing, which is actually just go bleh, and then that therefore becomes gospel. And I think that's actually something to be aware of. And so what we've actually done is taken a step backwards, and we've put some of our stuff through some levels of accountability, because we were so messed up on Friday night, I think it's fair to say, Chewy, that we wanted to make sure. And now that we've made sure, I think it's fair to say we are going to approach the next 100 episodes, whatever it's going to be, much more confidently and much more knowing where we stand in the kind of media community. But you know this, we say unashamedly that we approach this from the left, where we sit in that community as well. And I'll say to you one thing very clearly, and I've said this to a couple of people, the people who are who disagree with how we're going to do things, right? A lot of those people are people of profile. A lot of those people are people who, who have lots of Twitter followers, and they're all doing really good work. That wasn't supposed to sound snarky. I'm very clear now. They can go off and be the All Blacks. In Chewy's world, they can be the Dave Chappelles. They can be the number ones. They can be the ones with all the profile and all the prestige, and the ones at the media quotes and all that. I'm happy playing club rugby. Yeah. I don't need that. You can do that. You can be that impactful. I'll just stay playing club rugby. It's the same game, but it's a very different level of skill set, a very different level of profile, and I'm happy here. I don't know about you two, I can't speak to you, but if I was using the comedian, stand-up comedian analogy, I'd be like, they can go have their Netflix specials. Go for it. You go and do that. I'll keep working on my game in the local club. So that's the position that I'm now have taken, and what that actually means is I'm quite assured in what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. So, you want to add anything to that, Chewy? It's kind of introductions to tomorrow night show, I guess.
Yes, I found another award.
Good.
I have another award.
Backstroke for under 10s.
Awards.
I didn't show any awards.
There we go. That's the 2013 EB Games Gold Clan Award.
Do you know the most hilarious thing is you're frozen and no one can see the thing? I know you just get starting to come out. No one saw it because you froze.
What? No one saw my award.
You froze.
Oh, what's happening? Unstable connection.
Unstable owner. Okay,
there we go. I think it's come right. There we go. Yeah. My 2013 EB Games Gold Clan Award. That means I was the best in my retail.
Did you say Gold
area.
Clan?
Gold. Yes, it's a clan. Yes, they went
did
with
you belong
clan.
to the clan, Chewy?
I belonged to the EB Games clan
Good
of
Lord.
low foot volume stores, best in Australasia.
Yeah. All right.
There you go. You haven't got one of those, have you, Mr. Broadcasting?
No. Look, I'm happy to say I've never been a part of the clan, Chewy. You might want to hold that one up and say that you have been. That's fine. You and your hoods. I'll say no. I've never been a part of the clan. You're right. All right, guys. Hey, listen, we're done. Tomorrow night, come along and join us. You'll find out more stuff. Adam, who talked about the $5 thing, I'll make you this assurance. The first one will be a part of the $5 thing for sure. All right, and then we'll keep thinking. Deal? Can we shake on that, Chewy? How do we do that? That way?
I had no. I don't know what's happening there. I don't care for it.
So that's a deal I will make with you, Adam. That I will start it off by doing it on the $5 deal. I'm not guaranteeing that's going to stay permanently, but yep, we're starting. We're getting into it. We're all helping each other. Deal.
We're just trying stuff. It's good.
Yep, we're trying stuff. All right, guys. So we'll see you tomorrow night from 10 o'clock for a show, a specialist kind of show, and we'll let you know what's going on, and you will definitely get to see some stuff tomorrow night that we're going to do. All right, team. Who's Burge Dog? Burge Doug. Hey, Burge Doug. Is that how you say it? Burge Doug. Burge Doug. Burge Doug. Burge Doug. Sorry, I've just gone mad slightly.
Yeah.
All right, team.
Nice one.
Appreciate you all being with us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night from 10 p.m. for another edition of the Big Hairy News. I'm going to go watch the second half of the rugby. Hooroo!